Welcome back to another Stock Market Open live stream. So, a few things this morning to cover. First things first, we've got some catalyst coming out, but our ISM numbers this morning won't be coming out until 7 a.m. California time, so we're about 69-ish minutes away from that. 68 now. You've got Tesla up about 172 on enthusiasm over Chinese vehicle deliveries and delivery numbers coming out tomorrow. Bitcoin, take a look at Bitcoin on the 5 here. You'll notice we were sitting at this resistance level of 61,741 for quite a while. We've actually played that line quite a bit. That line is a very, very common line for Bitcoin to play. Bitcoin, for whatever reason, broke out, came back down to test, bounced, went almost all the way up to our 63,840 line, came within $90 of it, and now it's bleeding out after getting rejected there. So clearly these lines are very well in play. 63,840 might adjust a little bit, but these lines have been here for a while. Pretty remarkable to see them at play again. All right, so we've got the Qs up about 22 basis points. We've got Chewy moving quite a bit after good old Roaring Kitty now discloses a 6% passive stake in the company. I don't exactly know where all the money is coming from, but I know a lot of attendees came from GME, but I guess some of that money got rolled right on over to Chewy to keep the entertainment going. So Chewy's moved quite a bit here over the last bit of time. Let's zoom out here for a moment. Yeah, you've got Chewy since about May. Since about the GameStop era, right before the GameStop era here, where you had sort of on May 13th, Roaring Kitty picking up calls, and then of course the Momentum era beginning later in May. You had pretty strong earnings on the 29th, and the stock has been moving nicely since then. It's about a double since mid-May. Pretty remarkable. All right, what do we got? Let's see here. Ooh, China. Let's hear it. China shock.
To its predatory practices to avoid making long overdue reforms. The congressman joins us right now. He is the ranking member on the House Select Committee on the Chinese Communist Party. And, sir, let's talk a little bit about what you laid out in your op-ed. We've seen this before from China, but you say that this is unprecedented in both this...
In your bed? What does she mean?
What they are undertaking this time around. You want to explain?
Sure, and thank you so much for attention to this. Essentially, the Chinese economy is tanking right now, and Xi Jinping, the leader of the Chinese Communist Party, has decided that to reinvigorate the Chinese economy, he's going to double down in an old Chinese playbook for economic reform, so to speak, which is overproducing goods far in excess of what internal demand requires, and then exporting the surplus to other countries at a price designed to undercut the competition and really destroy it. And so he's doing this across a range of goods, including goods in strategic sectors that they have decided that they want to dominate, from everything from semiconductors to shipbuilding to drones and so forth.
I think some of the numbers kind of jump out. I've heard Janet Yellen has talked about this, the Secretary of the Treasury, has talked about how all of the money that was previously being spent on infrastructure on China has been funneled into this, and the numbers kind of back that up. 4 years ago, there was $83 billion that China spent on new lending for industry. That skyrocketed, you say, to $670 billion, and those are numbers that are coming from the Bank of China.
Yeah, these are astronomical numbers. Just take one example, which we highlighted in our hearing the other day, shipbuilding. Essentially, China is building 359 new ships for every one ship that the United States builds. And that points out two problems. One is they are building far more ships than their internal demand requires. But secondly, the U.S. has ceded leadership in global shipbuilding, and that impacts our national...
I do wonder, isn't what China's doing just a form of free market competition to some extent? I mean, if you're just producing things more efficiently, and you're shipping things around the world cheaper, and then you got protectionist folks like this in Congress who are like, this isn't fair. It's hurting American competition or manufacturing. Well, if they can make something cheaper and better, is that wrong?
Both the Trump and Biden administrations have pursued, but part of it also is, working with our partners, friends, and allies to boost our own capacity for manufacturing the items at issue. So, just one example are semiconductor chips. The United States used to be a leading power in manufacturing these chips, but we lost our edge in manufacturing them a long time ago.
People are saying, China uses slave labor. I don't know about that. There's so many people in China. I think that's what you have to think about. There's so many people in China, and some of the poorest live in rural lands where you're like farming rice. You know how much like a 5-pound bag of rice costs? 5-pound bag of rice, especially if you can get it from Costco. 5-pound bag of rice. You pick it up from Kroger for $3.50. You go out there and farm 5 pounds of rice, then ship it around the world and pay more than $3.50 in shipping just to ship it around. I mean, obviously they ship it in larger quantities to make sense of it. But the concept is, they're slave labor. It's like, maybe they're making 3 times as much money doing what you think is slave labor, but they were making 1/3 the money doing slave labor out in fields, farming rice or whatever. So, maybe what looks like slave labor is really just a massive excess supply of workers. I mean, think about, a 1.4 billion person population, and then this, counter argument of entitlement in America of, we shouldn't have to compete with all those other people. I don't know, I think that's actually a pretty entitled argument.
The sole source and then exert, coercive practices to get us to try to do things that we might not otherwise do is really necessary now.
Is this a bipartisan issue in Congress?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this is something that people on both sides of the aisle agree.
Well, people are like, the Chinese government is subsidizing. So? What does our government do? How many of you got EV tax credits to be subsidized to buy an electric vehicle? How many people get subsidies indirectly through all of the subsidies the government is throwing at the chip sector? All of our GPTs or whatever operate faster because the government's throwing billions of dollars at domesticating chip manufacturing. So, I don't know, that's not a good argument to me either. The government's subsidizing their slave labor. It's like, well, that's what our government does too. You ever heard of minimum wage? It's a government subsidy. I don't know. Those arguments don't resonate with me. So, anyway. All right, BTC moving up a little bit here. You've got Tesla's holding on to that about 1.5, NVIDIA 40, Plug Power, NIO 4, what is this, 4.3, let's see here, okay, let's see, is Tesla going to 200 day? It's already over 200. Let's see here. Okay. Trying to see. Ethereum's under 35. There's not much movement here. I think the biggest movement is, quite frankly, in Tesla. Tesla, Chewy, these are some of your big movers here. DJT's moving up a bit. I was surprised it was down 10% Friday after the debate. And I thought that was some pretty obvious creamage. Must have been some buy the rumor, sell the newsing there, that people anticipated that. But I don't think you could have anticipated that that Biden's performance would have been so bad. Oh. Let me see. GME. Let's try that. GME. Snowflake, you're right. It's moving out. 275 there on Snowflake. Oh, yeah. Interesting. People were taking money from the GMizzle, throwing it probably into Chewy. I will do what Roaring Kitty does. Very interesting. I wonder what cash flow Chewy has. Chewy Investor Relations. Okay. Let's find out. So, cash flow. Oh. $82 million of cash flow. CapEx of about 30. So we got about $50 million of cash flow. We like the cash flow. You got gross profit. It's up maybe about 9% here. G&A is up a little. Net income's up quite a bit, actually. That's pretty good. Advertising, just G&A. Yeah. A lot of that was able to flow right through their net income. That's great. Is there a margin increase? Margin must have gotten better. Let me see here. Let's calculate where the money is coming from. 2877. 853 divided by 2877. 29.6% gross profit. 792 divided by 2790. 28%. Yeah, so you had a 1% move in margin. Other expenses, interest income moved up a little bit. It's actually not that bad. Assets, got a billy in cash. Current liabilities, we got a couple billy. Oh, that's okay. They'll be able to raise. So we do have a couple bill of debt. So they need some extra money because their cash flow is not high enough to cover this, but they'll be able to issue stock now, so that won't be a problem. So what's our net income per share? 15 cents. Okay. So Chewy. Chewy. 73 is the forecast for the year. That makes, that's a little higher than the 15 cent where we sit now, but that's fine. What's the stock? Chewy. It is 30.22 divided by 0.73. It's trading for about 41.3 times. 41.3 times with growth expected to be 20, let's see here, 24 plus 20.33 plus 24.7 plus 0.37. Oh, growth's expected to flatten over there. Divided by 4, 17 times. Trading for about a 2.4 peg. Nice. All right, it's actually not horrible. Pretty good. I mean, I think Roaring Kitty bought it because of the momentum movement, my opinion. But it's justifiable. iPhone sell-through sales remained weak in May, declining 2% year over year with a loss in US, China, and Europe. Oh, not the iPhone. Yeah, very interesting. All right, let's go back over here.
But he has talked about an across the board tariff, but he's also talked about wanting things to be more reciprocal. And my guess is that once you start moving Congress, that the reciprocal idea is going to be the more popular of the two.
And it's really, we've just seen this movie again and again and again. So to handle the the built-up debt that we have, we're going to need growth. I don't see any other way.
Yeah.
Do you think that if Trump were to win back the presidency and would cut a lot of the regulations that we've seen layered on the economy during the Biden years, and do you think that trying to stimulate business with tax cuts or however he wants to do it, do you think that would be the way for growth? Because Democrats think the way that you engender growth is through investment in infrastructure, in chips, and the transition to green energy. They think you got to spend to reap the rewards. Which way works? Does either way work?
Well, it's all about demand and supply, as you know, Joe. And so what you have to do is you have to feed supply as well as demand. And what the Democrats have been doing is they've been spending on stuff, but they've also been attacking supply with higher taxes and higher regulation. I think the top priority for the tax bill next year should be to return the expensing measures to law, which are expiring. And so if you buy a machine, you get to expense it. That's like really, really important for driving up supply. In fact, equipment investment last year in the U.S. was negative, in part because of the expiring expensing. And then the second thing is that we've got the small business 199A deduction, which allows small businesses to get some of that benefit from the lower corporate rate. Well, that's expiring too. And so there are a couple of rifle shots, right at destroying supply on the tax code side. And then Joe Biden is launching new economically significant regulations at about double the rate of President Obama, who was the previous record holder. And of course, that would stop in its tracks the minute that President Trump were in the White House.
All right, some differences there between Biden and Trump. It's interesting, the regulation theory versus free market. There's a balance there, but I think a lot of folks prefer a little bit less overall regulation in their lives. Derek Johnson says, how did the government trick women into wanting to work full-time over being a homemaker? I don't think the government tricked women. I think, I suppose you could say maybe there were manipulative influences, but I don't think so. I think women wanting to be independent is a great thing. I think women not having to rely on a dude that they can't leave if the dude's an asshole to her, I think is a bad thing. I think an independent woman is a wonderful thing. Anyway, markets may be quiet because of a short week. Oh, you've got July 4th coming up. That's true. You're going to be off. That is true. Yeah. Yeah, view on Nike. The issue with Nike is really you lost your growth sector, right? You lost the digital growth that was really blowing up. That's now substantially slowed down. Yeah, it's a little rough. It says slave labor, Chinese Uyghurs. Yeah, that is true. But boy, what's like an 11 million population divided by like 14,000? Is it 14,000? 1,400. No, it'd be 1,400. That's less than 1% of the population, so I don't know that that's enough to actually support the argument that the Uyghurs make the whole difference. I don't know about that. No. They're conflating two totally different things here. Nobody said if you are pro-independence, you are anti your family. Nobody said that. Remember, you have 114 hours a week if you sleep 8 hours a day. The average amount worked is 35 hours per week at a 40-hour-a-week job. That's because when you factor in PTO, sick days, holidays, whatever, you're working about 35 hours. So to suggest that just because you're working a 40-hour-a-week job, you can't be a family person with the extra 77 hours that you have is creating an argument that's discongruent here. That doesn't make sense. Anyway.
People want to seem important, and so they say that they're talking to the guy, and maybe they said hi to him on the golf course or something. But no, absolutely not. We were unable to track down the source of that story.
When's the last time you spoke to the president?
Inspiration Daily says Kevin sounds like a beta. Nah, you sound like an Andrew Tate disciple, or should I say copycat.
You figure you'll be doing something if he were to win re-election?
Oh, I'm not sure. Yeah, I think, again, we have to see what happens. But I am, of course, willing to serve my country and my president. Exactly.
All right, Kevin. Thank you, Kevin Hassett.
Meet Kevin Hassett. Remember the good old COVID days. That was wild. Let's listen to a non-political business channel for a moment here.
With the Alliance for Automotive Innovation, we talked to him about
Wow, they're not talking about politics.
driving, not safer, but more dangerous.
Our concern is that asking the technology to stop vehicles completely at very high speeds is going to confuse customers.
You always forget to factor in commute with your calculation. If your commute is so large that you have to factor that in to your hours, you should move. That's your problem.
Debate on a lot of issues these days, Cheryl. You know, you can get some benefit from something, but what's the cost benefit of that? Maybe there'd be some benefit, but I tell you, the cost, the automakers say, would be $4,000 a vehicle if they could even come up with a technology that would do this. Interesting debate.
And we're going to have that debate right now. Jeff Flock, thank you very much for that live report. Mark, this sounds like a not good idea.
I absolutely hate this idea, especially at high speeds. I mean, I don't like when somebody hits their brakes on the freeway, regardless of whether or not they slam on the brakes. But
what are they yapping about? I still don't understand.
I've got a vehicle whereby if they're...
You know what? I've decided I don't really care what they're talking about. I was trying. I was really trying. I couldn't do it.
Aim at former Trump officials who have podcasts, trying to laugh this off on social media as well, and then saying that the family is staunchly in the president's corner and calling for him to continue on.
Is there a sense of how it would work or who would be chosen if President Biden does choose to step aside, given the fact that there's a real kind of groundswell of feeling that maybe Kamala Harris has to be the person who's put in there, even though there's sort of an understanding that...
Oh, yeah, Katie Smith. Yeah, babies are tough. The only unsolicited advice I can suggest is whatever you can to get that sleep routine down. Same exact times for bottle feed every day, throughout the entire day and the night. Exactly the same time. Get that routine going. Makes life a lot easier. Get them sleeping through the night a lot faster too. Which is really tough to do, especially with your first. Like, we screwed that up so badly when we had our first Jack. We're like, whatever, when he cries, I guess we'll go make a bottle. Big mistake. It's very, very useful to sleep routine and train.
Against former President Donald Trump as other candidates, the jockeying to see who would have the torch from President Biden. All those things will cause just a flurry of infighting, embarrassing infighting within the party, just as it needs to coalesce and gain momentum here heading towards November.
It's going to take some time to shake this off, that's for sure, if they can. Mario, thank you, sir. Mario Parker of...
Yeah, it'll be interesting what the Biden camp eventually decides to do here, but I still stand by my prediction that A, he should step down, and number two, well, B, I guess, it's going to take, even if the decision's been made yesterday, which I suspect it was, I think the Democratic Party will need a few days to actually put together some marketing. After I made my video yesterday talking about that, some people were messaging saying, I'm buying websites, Harris Newsom, Obama Harris. And I'm like, well, okay. That wasn't the intention to encourage domain squatting, but it is funny. Hey, if you nail it and they try to give you, a few $1,000 or whatever for a $12 domain, good for you. You flipped it.
Self-fulfilling feature where it crashes something in the short term. There's a lot of unknowns here that are hard to extrapolate out. Either way, more volatility and potentially higher yields in the near term seems to be the most likely call going forward.
Quite a finish to Q2, quite a start to Q3. The first half is over, the second half still to come. From New York.
Wouldn't you agree there's some industries that need to be produced locally for national security? Yeah, I mean, some, but I think a fraction. some, for example, chiplets that go into laser-guided bombs, for example. Yeah, I'd like those to be produced locally, right? But I think that list is substantially smaller than people think. So, families are disappearing. Yeah, people are wanting to have children later. A lot of people wanting to have children later. That's very interesting. What I was hinting at is more taxpayers was a benefit for the government loss for. I don't really know what that means. Hinting at is more taxpayers was a benefit for the government loss for life. Okay, greater. Well, sure, but I mean that's also like what came first, the thesis that the government wanted GDP to grow, and made it easier for people to work and make money in a functional economy, or is it this idea of no, we need more tax revenue? I mean, of course, both are true, right? But which has a stronger pull? I don't know. All right, let's see here. The Q's 28 bips. Chewy's still sitting at 11. Market's somewhat quiet here in the pre-market. I mean, it's just stable. Stable. Let's see here. I have 2 kids killing my cash flow. Yeah. they're not cheap. Yeah. Alright. Let's see here. Coming up on 6 o'clock. We don't have caddies until 7. Let's see. Yeah, the average family doesn't work 996 in the United States. So, yeah, you've got a bunch of ISM data coming out. You also have S&P Global US Manufacturing coming out at 6:45. So, Hector Salas says, that's easy to say, Kevin. I drive about 3 hours a day. Yeah, that's like the dumbest thing I've heard all day. That, like, I mean, unless your job is driving. Like, if you're a trucker, great. If you're distributing parcels, fine. Of course, that's part of your job. You're driving Uber, great. That's part of your job. If you're commuting 3 hours, your priorities have gotten substantially misaligned. You've moved somewhere because of the idea that it's cheaper, maybe you can have a bigger house or whatever, but you're, in my opinion, exhausting yourself. I mean, an hour and a half drive is going to make you tired when you get to work. You're going to be tired when you get home. Driving is extremely tiring. I can't stand it. I personally hate it. Like, I think a 30-minute, and this is maybe just me personally, a 30-minute drive is more tiring than an hour flight. I don't know. It's an hour and a half each way, and that's my presumption. That's an hour and a half each day. But 3 hours a day, no. That doesn't make any sense. You got to move. My wife wanted to be independent and went back to work. It was tough on our family. We ultimately divorced after 10 years. Sorry to hear that. People commute to the city. Yeah, well, then move closer to your job. Let's see. An hour is normal. The average commute in America is 30 minutes. 30 minutes. I like J. Powell Jr. here says, 30 seconds to my kitchen. That's awesome. But remember, your commute is your choice. So, people are like, Kevin's very disconnected. No. I understand the average commute is 30 minutes. But my point is, you should lessen it. You should make your commute smaller. Your goal in life should be to have the smallest commute possible, because that is going to make you more energetic at your work, more energetic at home. That's going to give you more time with family, more time in the car, as more time away from the things that matter. So, anyway. One day I hope we just have the Elon tunnels, and then you don't have that problem, right? Yeah. I have a 7-week-old, but I'm trying. Oh, well, that's adorable. Boy, 7 week. Yeah, they're not going to be sleeping through the night until, boy, the earliest I think ours started sleeping through the night, the earliest. Like, Jay's sleeping through the night now. He's at 4 months. Summer almost gets through the whole night. Violet wakes up sometimes now at 4. So, yeah, you're probably still a month away. Good luck for you. It is very hard. And the lack of sleep sucks. Well, breastfeeding is always bad. Some women can't breastfeed. You know, it's easy to say. It's some dry up a little faster. But that's human nature. So some produce a lot of milk. But yeah, I'm a big fan of breast milk. I think it's great. Not that I've ever tried baby hack. Diapers are very expensive. Yeah. I'm not starting diaper hack. And it sucks because if you go with the cheaper diapers, they like leak or they explode or whatever. I don't know. It sucks. Biden is just a puppet. Well, unfortunately, I do think that's true at this point. What you're really voting for is an administration rather than a person, right, with Biden, which I think is somewhat unfortunate for the presidency. Let's see here. Are you going to play Tesla deliveries tomorrow? I don't know. I usually don't like to play catalyst events. I kind of like when the catalysts just happen. And then you can invest. It just seems like such a gamble on how the market's going to reply or respond. So I kind of like letting the market do its thing and then trying to catch a trend, whether that's up or down. So, Kevin, ever heard of rush hour traffic? That's not true at all. You know, I had to commute to UCLA. That's a pain in the butt. You know, if I left during rush hour, it was a 90-minute commute. I installed a laptop stand in my Prius to help smooth over that commute, but it was such a disaster. I mean, it was like, you know, one thing that's nice is you could listen to like an audiobook or listen to YouTube or you know, some educational stuff. You know, you can make phone calls. Those are good. But I still think, you know, more than a 15-minute commute, I don't know. I don't love it. 9 Olives says, some days you're an irritating little twat. Thank you for still being here, 9 Olives. And if you want to leave, I don't care. So... yeah, let's see. 20 miles in New Jersey takes 50 minutes plus each way. See, yeah, I don't know. It's hour and a half commute each way is not uncommon. I'm not saying it's not uncommon. I'm saying you should try to fix it. You shouldn't have that kind of commute. You know, it's very bad. So anyway, closer to job is 2 times as expensive. So. Like, I think what folks forget is if you own more expensive real estate closer to your job, you now, let's say it's twice as expensive, you have twice as much money invested on the real estate cycle for building your wealth. So ironically, your commute is actually making you poorer. So you go buy a $400,000 house an hour away, as opposed to an $800,000 house. You know, I understand, you know, you have to qualify and you have to get the down payment and stuff. But now the market appreciates 10% over whatever period of time. On the $400,000 house, congratulations, you made 40. On the $800K house, you just made 80. So literally your commute isn't actually saving you money. It's costing you money because it's forcing you not to put more money into what will probably be one of the greatest investments ever, which is your home, the house that you live in. So, you know, and, you know, it's, if you can't get a loan for that house, you can't buy there. Listen, if you can't get a loan for that $800K house, then you got to start asking yourself, okay, what am I going to do to provide more value to my job, to get the licenses or the certifications that I need to go make more money? If somebody can literally have a high school education, become a pilot, and make $150,000 a year, working, you know, a lot of pilots, it's kind of like a part-time job. Not all of them, but, you know, depending on which sector you get into. Let's even call it a full-time job. You got plenty of time to even work a second job if you wanted to, especially if you're single and you're early in your career. So I don't know, that argument just doesn't resonate with me. And again, if my yapping can encourage you to think a little bit differently about, oh, I'm saving money because I'm commuting, when the reality is you're actually losing money because you have less money on the real estate cycle. You're more tired at work, so you might get passed over on the promotion. You're more tired when you get home from work. So you're like, oh, look, honey, we have this larger house and a yard because we're so far away from my job. You know, then what good is it? So, look, I don't really care if you agree with me or not. I think there is there are very clear guiding lights. And I'm not saying that you can wave a magic wand and make that happen. And I really don't care if you disagree with me. But I think the clear guiding light is, one, the goal should be higher top-line income. Number two, own more real estate. And number three, be closer to where you work. So when you look at those three guiding lights, I don't see what's wrong with any of those. More income means more money to invest. More real estate means you're more likely to retire wealthy, much more wealthy too. And more time with family is a good. So if these are all good, then anything that is anti those things is really bad. Cheaper house, bad. Less or you know, lower income, bad. Larger commute, bad. So I think we're talking about a good versus a bad here. And then how you justify that good versus bad is your problem. Anyway. Ray Chen recently got a hold of $10,000. Nice. What'd you do? Who'd you steal it from, Ray? Anyway. I don't know. I not personalized advice, but I just think broadly for everybody, the best thing you could do you get started at 20 is spend that on yourself. You know, obviously buying yourself a Rolex and a nice suit. I'm just kidding. No, you know, I always say focus on things that are going to be able to make you more money. So, you know, some people are like, you know, I say like, oh, you know, become a real estate agent or get certified or something, become a CPA or whatever. And they're like, oh, I don't have the money to do that. You know, and then people come into 10K and they go on a vacation. It's like, oh, well, you had the money. So, you know, become a CPA. I don't know. It depends on your personality, too, what you want to do. So, oh, yeah, Boeing's buying Spirit Aerosystems. Let's take a look at that. SPR. Oh, it's only up 4.3%. That's probably because people are worried about antitrust here. Because I think their acquisition price is like $37.50. That's very interesting. Yeah. My commute is 10 minutes, and I make sure to avoid rush hour. Good for you. I live in a town 10 minutes from the highest paying jobs are. It's a no-brainer. Congratulations. But that's great. 10 minutes is actually good. Like, there is a balance to where, like, if you have no commute, you actually don't have the unwind time from work. So some commute is better than no commute, ironically. But once you start crossing 15 minutes, I think you really start hitting diminishing returns. What do you think about the NAR lawsuit? Not much has changed so far. I really thought more people would be waiving buyers' commissions, which would be a detriment to buyers. Really, the lawsuit just hurts buyers. NVIDIA puts all in. Let's see. You know, 125 has become an interesting resistance point for it. So, 125... Yeah, it's been getting a little stuck there at 125. Actually, quite stuck. And now it almost seems like you're somewhat converging over here. This is on the 1 hour chart. Yeah, it's not a great line. But, Ooh. No. Not great either. No, none of these are fantastic. But, yeah, I mean, obviously, you've peaked out a little bit. The question now is how low is it going to go? Well... Mm-hmm. This guy really isn't taking into account good. I haven't heard somebody in the comments say this guy, but okay. Good and bad areas. Cities have a lot of homeless and crime for double the price. Now you're spending more time at work and paying a higher mortgage. Out of touch. It's actually not out of touch. There are plenty of fantastic family-friendly neighborhoods, even within cities. So again, it's generally an affordability issue, which is totally reasonable. But again, the goal is to strive for that. I think it's just a matter of priorities. You know, like there are also plenty of people who work in the city who negotiate to only go into work 3 times a week, right? So the post-COVID economy has given folks a lot of options. So now all of a sudden, you know, even if you have a 45-minute commute, but you're only doing it 3 times a week, well, that's not actually that bad, because now you're 90 times 3, 270 minutes of commuting, 270 divided by 5. Now all of a sudden your average commute is 27 minutes each way. That's not as unreasonable anymore, right? So, yeah, plenty of ways to look at it. All right. Yeah, but I love the argument, like, oh, you're just out of touch. No, I just have a different opinion than you, and you're trying to go for a low blow insult that doesn't actually change what I'm saying. Yeah, so I think it's really entertaining. It's kind of like when I tell people, like, you should DoorDash your groceries because you're wasting your time in the grocery store, and you're actually spending more money than the DoorDash delivery fee on crap you shouldn't be buying in grocery stores. You know, the usual reply is, oh, you're just out of touch. It's expensive to DoorDash. I'm like, really? It costs $0 to use Walmart's shipping service if, you know, you buy your groceries through Walmart. And they basically include the delivery service. And Walmart's, you know, cheap enough to buy things from. So it's usually an excuse. Usually when people say things, oh, you're just out of touch. What you're doing is you're failing your argument so badly, you have to lash out. That's pretty bad. Anyway, so 62.8 on BTC. Yeah, we're not really going anywhere here in the pre-market. Pre-market's a little soft. Little soft. Yeah, look at that. Just sideways here. QQQ. Kevin grew up in a welcoming environment. Yeah, if you think losing your childhood home basically to foreclosure and then having your car repoed and then having to walk to work, losing all your friends, your parents getting divorced, and getting screwed as a child at a very impressionable age, if you think that was a welcoming environment, you're a dumbass. But then again, you were ignorant. You didn't know. So you decided to try to insult, and you didn't land it. NVIDIA volume shelf is disgusting. Let's take a look at that. So, let's see here. Yeah. Let me zoom out a bit. Oh, the volume's declining for sure. But let me go out a little more. I'm going to go out on the week chart. Oh, wow. But a lot of people were saying this. They didn't post split adjust over here. That they didn't adjust the volumes back on Webull. A lot of people were saying TradingView has this updated correctly. I believe that. So let's see here. Well, oh, this is an interesting question. Any thoughts on Rivian having a bounce from here? It's been bleeding from $18. All right, let's see, Ben. Yeah, you know, I actually liked Rivian when the VW partnership came out. You know, I understand there are a lot of like caveats to the VW partnership, but I actually thought, like, I prefer Tesla over Rivian, but I actually thought that the stock would go up after the partnership and stay up, but it just started bleeding right away. So I have to say I was wrong about that. I was surprised. I thought it was more likely we were going to go to $20 than $8. You know, now we're kind of in no man's land. So I'm a little bit surprised by that. Somebody says Robinhood app is down. Let me see if that's true. Robinhood. I mean, my Robinhood is up. I don't have any securities in it. Let's try something. Let's try Tesla on Robinhood. It seems to be functioning. If I click on trade, buy, review. Oh, the review thing on an order is pinwheeling. Is it? Oh, it's just a little slow. Now, how do I get out of the app if I want to swipe up to get out of the app? But that's going to swipe up to enter the shares. Oh, there we go. I just hit edit. That's actually funny. Yeah, once you're in the little order window, it's like, oh, I'm gonna swipe up to switch apps. It's like, oh no, it's gonna execute your order. Not that it would have really mattered. All right, let's hop in over here.
Blockbuster day at the Supreme Court here.
Oh yeah, the Supreme Court ruling on Trump immunity should be coming out at like 7.
Remaining now, the court will finally rule on former President Donald Trump's claim of immunity from prosecution for at least some of his actions in seeking
getting a Cybertruck. No
election. Even before a decision is rendered, though, the court's handling of this case has been controversial because it failed to rule on an expedited basis, causing a delay in Trump's case that now threatens to push it past the November election, rendering a court verdict moot if Trump wins the presidency again in November. The trial, remember, was supposed to be...
Oh, congratulations, Justin. See, I like hearing stories like this. This is great. Good for you. I used to have an average of over 2 hours of commuting a day just because I had no option. Well, sometimes you got to do what you got to do. I totally get that. Finally got my money up, and the first thing I did was move so my commute was under 20 minutes a day. Congratulations. That's a life changer right there. That's a life changer. That's amazing. Congratulations. People use privilege as an excuse for why they're not doing it. Look, there are plenty of excuses in life for, why someone's doing better than somebody else. And I think what happens often is like you look at like how many people hate Taylor Swift, and a lot of it is just like they hate for her sheer success, and it's really sad. I think she's great. I think she's a role model. I think she's awesome and an inspiration. But then you have people that are afraid to say that. Oh, you like that? That's lame. Okay, whatever. Go walk around your house with a sword and follow Andrew Tate.
Federal agency rulemaking, so there will be some other headlines here coming up starting at the top of the hour. Back over to you.
Yeah, so by top of the hour, 7 o'clock. That's when the ruling is expected, right at 7. So we'll see what happens there. That's an interesting. How'd they get so tall behind the CNBC desk there? All of a sudden, all these people standing there, waiting for the bell.
Continue as the nominee, so all of the momentum campaign-wise is on the Trump side right now. You look at a ruling here that gives Trump immunity broadly. That simply takes a lot of the legal wrangling off of the former president's plate as he campaigns. I think it energizes donors. I think it energizes supporters. It certainly will energize the former president himself, and all that momentum will continue. If you get a ruling,
it'll be interesting what happens here with those immunity claims. I'm still very interested. We got 3 days until July 4th. I don't know. That's when I think we get some Biden news. We'll see. But what's really interesting is if you look every day, I do, and I think it has implications for the stock market as well. Every single day, he's front of mind here. Biden's family tells him to keep fighting as they huddle at Camp David. They posted this yesterday morning. I think it was actually like lunchtime, something like that. So the day technically wasn't over yet. So I don't know if this is the aides sort of passing the message along. But it seems like daily you've got the inevitability of Biden's reckoning. It's very interesting. Now insiders admit the party is reaping the consequences of a long failure to confront the issue, only likely to get worse. So, nobody's got any particular news yet, but I think a few days. We'll hear some stuff. We'll see.
That's got to go back to Congress. That's a huge win for business, right? We also saw rulings earlier in the week against the regulatory state, so to speak. So I think this court's term will be defined by this Trump ruling, no question.
Celsius Networks and Retail Club. Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that. That's unfortunate.
Whether the SEC, for example, can operate its own in-house court, so to speak, that is vitally important to business.
Wait, is Wednesday a half day? I thought it was off. What? NYSE closing calendar. Oh my lord. Wow, I did not know that. That's crazy. Okay. So you'll close at 10 then. Each market will close early. Yeah. Wow. Silly me. Market. Let me update eHack. Thank you for that. Market. Half day. 10 a.m. PT close. That's fascinating. Who knew? Well, you did. I didn't know. All right. Well, I guess that means I don't get a day off. Market open live stream and course member live. I guess if it's a half day in the market, it's still a full day for Kevin. Rip? That's okay. That's all right. All right. So, very well. Let's see here. Okay. So the biggest, I think the biggest real news this morning is just the Roaring Kitty stake. But beyond that, 6%, 6% stake in Chewy. Beyond that, there hasn't been much in the way of big news right now in the morning here. So we'll see what happens. We shall see what happens. Market opens in about 5 minutes. And again, also enthusiasm about Tesla deliveries are going to push Tesla stock higher today. I wonder how much it'll hold. Pre-markets showing pretty stable. There we go. Wow. July 1st. We're officially in Q3. How crazy is that? Q3 has begun. Time to go shopping for the real estate. It is Q3, Q4 time. I think there's still a little bit of patience to be had, but we'll see. All right. What have the Doomas? Let's see what the Doomas have. Oh, the Doomas have a commercial. The Doomas are on TV commercial. Much like always. Do you know that there's a secret threshold to rolling options for You know, rolling, anytime somebody says, oh, I'm going to roll an option, you realize it's like a scam, right? Rolling an option is like, yeah, I'm going to take a loss, I'm going to take what I have left, and I'm going to reinvest it. Most of the time when people say I'm going to roll it, they're just taking a loss. It's like, you have less money now that you are now reinvesting. Now, in theory, you could use it to say it as well. Like, oh, yeah, I just kind of keep rolling it, and hopefully you're making money in between those if you're just going to a further out expiration. But a lot of times, I see people try to cover the fact that they're losing money with it. Oh, I'm just going to roll it. Okay. Okay. Coin. You know, BTC, it's funny. I mentioned I thought BTC was going to go to 58K. Look at that. It went to 58.3. And I mentioned this like weeks ago. And sure enough, it did. And so now it's bouncing off 58.3. And this is actually a pretty positive breakout here. Any house hack updates? Not really. You know, things are progressing really well. It's a little bit of a hurry up and wait right now. You know, properties are great, rented out. Renos are going great. You've got, we're progressing with all of our plans for Q3, Q4 very well. So it's a little bit boring just from the like, hey, you know, what update do you have angle? So it's just sort of no news is good news right now. Yeah, I wouldn't want to be in a different place right now. I think we're right where we want to be. Okay, good. So 3 minutes to go, but thank you for asking. I hear SF about to get cleaned up. Yeah, right. They gotta fix some problems over there. Ooh, you know who recommends Naperville is what's his name? Gary Black. He's recommended that to me like 5 times.
Gerald joins me now. Great to see you, Keith. You say, I want to talk about Boeing. You say we could be looking at the end of Boeing as we know it. What do you mean by that?
Oh, yeah. Bonds are skyrocketing today for some reason. Up 10.6 basis points on the 10-year. It's wild.
Cookie jar, and I think that the company may well cease to exist, at least on the civilian airliner side, and or go through a massive transformation, the likes of which isn't even being contemplated by the stock price.
From an investor's point of view, are you touching it or not?
Oh, you know, this is one of those stocks. Actually, there's stocks you want, and there's stocks you don't want to be within 100 miles of. And right now, Boeing's the latter for me.
Okay.
Okay, he does not want to be close to it. That's interesting. Whatever. Boring. This is boring. Very boring. Yeah, but why the 10-year is up 10.4 basis points, I don't know. It's not like we had news over the weekend. So, and then what's the 2-year doing? The 2-year is up 5.9. Okay, so you have a steepening of the yield curve, actually. This was something that was starting to happen last week. Let me look at the 2s, 10s. 2s, 10s are... Oh, wow. Yeah, sharp steepening here. Well, no, that's what we had last week. What's the difference now? Hold on. Let me calculate it myself. 4.78. Oh, that's about right. That's right. 33 basis points. Yeah. Why is it so high today? Yeah, we went from negative 49 to 42 to 33. That's usually bad for the stock market. Usually that skyrocketing of the yield curve isn't great. So the last time the yield curve skyrocketed, we'll look at this after the bell, but that's not a great omen.
45. As it's gone up, the equity futures gain has been a little bit mitigated. So I think that's where we are, and that's sort of a toggle. Plus, of course, where's NVIDIA going to...
Joe Manchin, maybe.
Actually looks flattish at the moment.
Okay, and here it is. Come on. Open the bell here. You can take a look at the here's the big board, Tremblant Capital, celebrating a recent listing of the Tremblant Global ETF over the NASDAQ. Breakthrough T1D, a type 1 diabetes research and advocacy organization, does the honors. As we take a look, more green on the board, as you see, at our real-time exchange. And as Mike said, NVIDIA kind of opening more or less flat.
Yeah.
Right now,
it's still in this mode of, we put in this like really aggressive peak a couple of weeks ago. All the momentum stocks had a sharp little pullback. Last week, a sort of a weak bounce, and I keep comparing it to what we saw back in March.
All righty, let's see what we got going on here. So it's the open. You've got a nice green candle there on Tesla. I was getting nervous that first minute, though, just to see how things are going to hold on. But it's looking strong and powerful right now. NVIDIA is getting a little bit of a green candle here. It's actually trying to go green right now. You've got BTC moving up, which is a pretty good positive omen here. So I like to see that. You've got, let's see here, Enphase, as typical, kind of getting stuck in El Mudo, whatever you want to call it. Nike's moving here 59, 60 basis points. You've got Palantir. Ooh, Ooh, some nice green candles on the palette of the tier. Nice. Nvidia goes green here. Very nice. Q's, nice little rocket ship up. Good job on coin, which makes sense. You had a great little breakout move there on BTC. Very, very good. Let's listen in over here for a moment.
That's been the rule. If you look at actually what's working today, you mentioned Constellation, David, as well as Vistra. You know, these stocks, they're kind of the go-to, as well as Tesla. I feel like you got these sort of people who are activated on these short-term thematic type, I wouldn't say speculative, but kind of like the world-changing trade runs together.
It is fascinating. I mean, if you come into this year saying
Nvidia just dropped back down to about 50 basis points.
We had a number of people look at you funny, or as you said, Vistra as well. But this goes to what we've been talking about for months now, which is essentially the data centers that are going to be running all of these generative AI models, the enormous computing power in those data centers, which needs a great deal of power. And today, the Wall Street Journal reporting, for example, on something I've been talking about as well, hearing it from infrastructure bankers and lawyers who are working on these kinds of deals, essentially taking all the power from a nuclear power plant will Amazon Web Services do for one of its data centers. And the numbers are staggering when you talk about hundreds of thousands of homes that similarly could be powered or equal to the powering of one data center. Gives you some sense. There is beginning to be some concern, perhaps, that if you're taking that off the grid and it's only being used for one data center, what is that going to mean for the overall ability, capacity of the electric power generation? But we need a lot more of it, and that's another reason why you've seen these stocks in particular benefit so greatly.
And what does it mean for rates? What does that mean for inflation? I mean, there's kind of this broader societal implication as well, but I also...
Okay, Nvidia is starting to tank for some reason. It's down about 1.2. I'm just sort of trying to understand this market a little bit here. Look at these red candles coming out of here, just out of nowhere. This is why I always get so nervous the first few minutes of the trading day. I don't know what it is, but it's like you get the rocket ship for the first like 2 or 3 minutes out of the gate, and then all of a sudden you get reality, which is we're going down or we're going up. And right now it feels like we're going down. Don't look very good. I don't know. It's just weird.
To kind of create this huge premium in these stocks to make it seem like a great investment so that we can build the capacity and maybe so it becomes a bubble that ultimately busts. Because that's what happened with broadband. Everybody thought we were never going to have enough and you couldn't invest enough and 25 years ago, and then those companies didn't do well, but the system did great. I also do wonder, I mean, you hear Jensen Huang at NVIDIA talk about how much more efficient each iteration is going to be and all these other companies. I mean, you can solve for it 2 different ways, more power or make them more power efficient over time, make the actual data centers more power efficient. So I do think, at some
and I think you actually do both of those. That's something I've been talking about as well, as people keep thinking, oh, buy all the energy things that you can because chips are going to need so much more energy. And I'm like, they're going to become a whole lot more efficient. I don't know about that.
So ultimately overwhelms the idea of more efficiency in a sense because you're just doing even more computing.
At least at this phase, when all we're doing is just throwing, money and capacity at it. Raymond James, I think, raising its price target on Meta today, part of it is they said, we're the street high for next year's CapEx number for Meta, $50 billion. And that's the bullish case, right? Is they're going to invest even more and faster in these kind of AI capacities and kind of have it this internalized AI system. And that shows you the thinking. And that's why the market as a whole has really, kind of bought into the whole premise, because you're taking cash on the balance sheets of like a Meta and an Amazon and all these other companies that otherwise would just be sitting there buying back stock. You're handing it to NVIDIA. 50% of it goes to the bottom line of NVIDIA. The market says, I pay $40 for every dollar of earnings, right? So it's like that tells you why the overall market is able to kind of capture so much more value as this process becomes kind of a virtuous cycle in the short term.
It also exacerbates just the idea of the big getting even bigger and having these unique advantages in the current environment. Because if you don't have the cash to put $50 billion in CapEx, which Meta historically has been a pretty CapEx-light company up until this whole AI revolution, then that benefit just continues its cycle.
Yeah, it's only if you...
All right, let's keep seeing what's What's going on here? So, all right, I want to take a peek at the Qs. The Qs had a little bit of a rotation down, and they've relaxed a little bit here. So a little bit of chillness coming in, trying to level out a bit here off some of that bleed that's been happening. You've got, it's at about 7-8 basis points. Tesla's up 3 now, so it had a nice rocket off of the start. Let's see if that maintains. A lot of enthusiasm there for deliveries tomorrow, pricing in some of that hope, so to speak. Then you've got, let's see here, you've got 62.8 on BTC. Let's go, let's see here, coins up about 3/8, pretty good. Apple's moving as well, a nice 1.4. And you've got GameStop down 6. Trump stock down 4. Nvidia kind of keeps dropping there. Oops. So does Uber, 1.8. Yeah, Nvidia's really trying to get down there to about 120 is what it feels like. I think solar's getting hit as well on the higher yields today. That yield move was not great. Yeah, look at that. Enphase kind of going down to, now $98. Holy smokes. Yeah, the Qs, again, somewhat trying to give up. Once again, giving up a little bit on those Qs. So, somewhat interesting to see some of the movements here in El Stocko market. All right. So what else? I need to. We got data coming out in about. We got some data coming out in about 7 minutes, and then more data coming out in about 22 minutes. Let's listen in.
Boom bust in the stock, and now it's supposed to be moving toward the free cash flow type story, trying to follow the Airbnbs and the DoorDashes and the Ubers. You know, when you went from just top line to cash flow, it's kind of with mixed results so far.
Yeah. Leslie, nice to have you here because, themes that we've been discussing in the first half, certainly private credit, private markets have been one of the key ones, along with, of course, the growth of AI. We have a deal today. BlackRock is buying a company called Preqin. It's in the UK. Total purchase price about $3.2 billion in cash. But this company is basically an independent provider of private market data. And it seems to be perhaps a deal that is more important in terms of what it says about BlackRock's ambitions, particularly when it comes to the private markets and what kind of products it may be able to create. They're paying pretty hefty multiple to revenues here.
13 times.
13 years worth of revenues is what they're paying on a $250 million basically revenue base. The analysts who follow BlackRock, at least a couple of reports here, seem positive on it in terms of what it could mean. That revenue.
Was that true? Is FFIE getting an investment from the UAE? I see somebody writing that in the comments. I'm like, what?
Seriously, they're taking the potential for continued growth and democratization of private market products.
Yeah, I think they said on the call that they would look to do some sort of indexing with private data.
A lot of folks talking about it. I don't actually see that argument or news. But a lot of people are talking about Robinhood glitching for them. Sorry to hear that. That sucks. So I don't quite know what's going on there, but I'm seeing a lot of that kind of commentary right now in El Chato. Not great. So let's see what's going on there. Okay, so Q's holding on to about 4 bippy dudes here. Not fantastic, but holding on to some movement here next to flat. Looks like it's frankly about to try to go red. So you're getting a lot of movement there. And looks like Robinhood's actually up 50 basis points. So even though maybe the app's having some trouble, stock doesn't care. Oops. That's very annoying, though, when that happens. So anyway, all right. Let's take a listen in again briefly.
Fit into that portfolio management software, the technology there, and help its clients in a very fast-growing area.
Yeah, I mean, that's the roots of BlackRock in a way, is the analytics and the risk management software. I mean, and they built the asset manager along with that. So, and they're very skewed now. If you look at AUM and kind of low fee, commoditized ETF stuff, this is obviously a way to to get a
and their
get
earnings
side
are pretty
back.
significant, as you see. They're saying they're going to do for private markets. That's the COO, what they did for public markets. Perhaps at some point, Mike will barely be able to tell the difference between the two.
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah. In the way that like indexes overtook active and now private is kind of countering that.
Yeah. I know. If we can just get some charts, we'll start talking about them a lot more.
Absolutely.
Because we need charts.
True, 100%.
I mean, that's what caught my attention, the whole indexing of private
charts.
markets.
We don't have a network. All right, let's move on here and turn to our next guest. He predicts the NASDAQ will have another strong second half. Tech stocks will be up as much as 15% for that period of time. For value, he says lean into software names such as Salesforce. Top picks include Microsoft and Apple. Yes, he's Dan Ives, Wedbush Securities analyst, and he's right here at Post 9.
What color jacket today? Oh, there you go.
We're going to have to get a full shot at some point, including the Japanese, the sneakers.
Yep.
Painted in Japan, I believe.
Yeah,
correct?
Japanese. Yeah, exactly. From an artist in Japan. So we can do the full shot.
We can get to that in a minute. But let's talk about why you continue to see and be the bullish Dan Ives that you have been for quite some time.
Look, and it speaks to our view going into the year. NASDAQ 20,000 is ultimately where I think we head. Tech stocks up another 15% because even though this has been led by Godfather of AI, Jensen, NVIDIA, the multiplier for every dollar spent on NVIDIA chip, $8 to $10 flowing through the rest of tech. Software, infrastructure, semis, and I think now consumer AI revolution with what's happening in Apple. In my opinion, it is 9 p.m. in the AI party that goes to 4 a.m. And I think this tech market, bull market's going to continue.
Oh, he thinks it's early.
To get to 4 a.m. though.
I think in our opinion, it's a 2-year tech bull market because I think the next phase, the second, third, fourth derivatives, it's about the use cases playing out. Of course, you see what's happening with Microsoft, the hyperscalers, Google, Amazon, but then next, it's going to be names like Palantir, MongoDB. I think what McDermott's doing at ServiceNow. You look at Oracle. If someone told you Dell was an AI name 6 months ago, they'd say there's no way. Look at it today, and I think this.
It's still not an AI name, dude.
Not a 1999 moment. I think numbers go up significantly going into next year, and it speaks to our view where the bears will continue to yell in their caves about valuation with their spreadsheets, but I think this tech market continues to move higher.
You've been saying it's 95 for 2 years, Dan? How long does 1995 last?
So I think, look, in 95 ultimately becomes 96, 97.
Of course, yeah.
But the difference here is that you talk about the capex of Meta, 50 billion, what we're seeing Microsoft, 100 billion. As someone that covered tech back in the late 90s, this is not a bubble. This is not a 99 here it comes moment, which is, I think now it's about really a fourth industrial revolution. It's about that multiplier. Now it's software. And I think when you look at consumer, that's why Apple, it's going to be the renaissance of growth that starts as AI-driven super cycle from Apple. And that Apple, Microsoft, NVIDIA on the enterprise side, that's where I think it's a get out popcorn moment, in our opinion, for tech stocks still, 15% higher.
And even when you're sometimes negative on names, you seem to still be positive on them. I think of Tesla, which, by the way, you were right to stay positive because the stocks come back. But, on the negative side, you do right. The losers are going to be, in this revolution, will be the tech players that get squeezed out of sales cycles, technology-driven platforms, and future growth opportunities because they don't have the tools, tech, or software engineers to compete. So what does that mean, and who is that likely to be?
Yes, you've seen some of the disasters, UiPath, and some of these smaller players that have been squeezed out of sales cycles, what's happening across software. So I think what's going to happen is across software, across semis, it's not just saying AI 40 times in a conference call. Now, to Mike's point, now the next 6-9 months, it's about execution. I think strong gets stronger. I think a lot of the smaller players get squeezed out. Ultimately, I think that will be massive consolidation in terms of that phase for software. But I think any sort of hiccup that these companies, you'll see these stocks down 20, 30, 40%, which in our opinion is you focus on the themes, you focus on the winners, the Microsofts, the Apples, and then even go like mid-cap. I think in cybersecurity, and I talk about value, I think software and cybersecurity is where I see just massive value. Names like CrowdStrike, Zscaler, Palo Alto continue to be that as a table pounder, even though, many, including New York City cab driver, were bearish on Palo Alto 6 months ago. It speaks to what we're seeing with this cloud AI revolution.
All right, you're going to let us know when 99, 2000 is coming, though, right?
But right now,
no, you won't be able to do that. You're too bullish.
But the point is, it's 9 p.m. It is not midnight, and I think this thing goes to 4 a.m.
I think I don't know. He's really bullish. That's like, you're just going to keep going and going and going here. I mean, like, hey, I'm all for it because it's great for jobs. It's great for the economy. But it does sort of make you kind of scratch your head like, man, is it going to have like a breather at any moment? Oh, yeah, here's our 645 news.
Yes, thank you, David. S&P Global PMI, this is manufacturing, and this, of course, is going to replace the mid-month read, which was 51.7, now gets finalized in permanent marker at 51.6. It remains the best month-over-month positive change since March of this year. And do recall, this is the 6th read for 2024. All 6 are an expansion above 50, whereas last year in 2023, we only had 2 of 12 above 50. We continue to look at all the ISMs that will be coming out, as David pointed out, and do look at the 10-year and 2-year, which have really sold off a bit this morning, especially pre-opening of the equities. We see that yields are up about 3 basis points in the front, about 4 basis points in the longer maturities, and squawk on the street will return after a very short break.
Okay.
Yes, but some doctors say the foods can still fit
Why are they talking about food? All right, so it looks like Tesla's finally topping off. I had a small call on it, and I already got stopped out on it with a profit. I've kind of just I move my limits up all the time. So this one's moving. Nvidia keeps tanking, which is really interesting. I've got a put on Nvidia. That's up like 16K right now. As usual, I send all these alerts to everybody in the Stocks and Psych group, so you kind of know what I've got going on, and sort of like what positions I'm taking and where and how heavy or whatever. But the put on Nvidia right now is the gift that keeps on giving, and Tesla calls are now getting cheaper. Again, I'm out on that one with a slight profit, but I'm really printing right now on Nvidia. Holy crap. I'll show you what I actually got if you want to see it. Look at this. So this is my position right now on Nvidia. Let's go, 30 grand, dude. I'm moving this limit up. Like, I don't care. I'll take the profit. This is freaking great. I mean, I'm not gonna close it yet, but let it go. Go ahead. Run it. It's fine with me. It's at like 27K right now. But anyway, so this is an Nvidia put, and the thing keeps going down. So I keep moving my limit up. Like, I kind of want it to clear, so I realize this, like, 25, 26K of profit or whatever it is. It's like, that's not a bad morning. I'm going to pay for a vacation here. Let's go. Oh, come on, baby. Let's go. Let's go. That's great. So, but yeah, I'm almost at my target. I got to move my take profit up. Oh, my gosh. It almost hit my take profit. Oh, my gosh. Stop it. You stop it. No, you stop it. And that doesn't always happen in the stock market, but when it does, it's time to celebrate. So I like that. Anyway, that's at $36,000 now. Again, these are the kind of alerts and my goal is, like, if I see a trend, I try to send an alert. I'm like, hey, here's an option I see. Here's something I'm going to play. And I'm very transparent. Like, hey, I'm going to set a limit. So if it reverses, I'm out. And that's okay. Geez, Lord, Nvidia. How bad is it getting? I keep having to move up my take profit. Oh my gosh, yeah, it just went to poop. Holy crap. Okay, yeah, this is really bad. Okay, now I'm up $48,000. I'll take it. Oh, I got it. Okay, I took it. I might re-enter that. Yeah, that was like 44K of profit it just took. I guess I moved up the limit too high and it had a little candle move there. I could always re-enter. Wow. Okay. So, anyway, so then what I do, just so you know, for all of those of you who are not in the Stocks to Sight group, is I send a screenshot so you could see where my stop was set and you could see the tendy or not tendy that was taken. So then you can. And then I post my P&Ls, and I can't hide. Like, this is the only thing I trade in. So I'll post like the weekly P&Ls. I try to post the dailies. I'll post like the 3-month, the year-to-date, or whatever out. And that was really nice. Okay, well, that's a good day. So that's up like, whatever, 48K or whatever. Thanks, NVIDIA. So anyway, okay, where were we? So now let's go back to the Sinbasis. Oh, there's nothing on over there. Boring. All right, fine then. So let's see what the next move is, I guess, eh? Okay. 420. Okie dokie. All right, so we got Catalyst coming up in a few minutes here. So we'll see what happens. The next one. Oh yeah, did we talk about the last one that came out? I don't think we really did. It was basically just the global manufacturing PMI came in at 51.6 versus 51.7. And that's basically at expectations. Like, big deal. Who cares? That's not a big deal. Here's Tesla. Wow, still 3.9. Next up is the ISM manufacturing and prices paid, though. Prices paid could move the market. So I always like to pay attention to prices paid because it is an inflationary read, and people get all twisted over potential inflationary reads. So we are expecting prices paid to be 55.9, which is growth. And it is an acceleration, but we'll see. Smaller. There we go. Okay. Very good. So, what else? What is this? Where's CNBC? Is this CNBC? No, this is Spectrum News. What is this? Oh, they're advertising Channel 1 on Channel 85. Oh, okay. All right, whatever. Okay. So Qs are now down about 42 basis points. I think a lot of that probably has to do with NVIDIA's plummet there. I don't know how the hell that happened, but I went in like over here, I think during this consolidation. And I'm like, I'm gonna ride this one for a little bit. And there goes Tesla again, which is great. Some nice moves on Tesla to Esla. And let's see what happens to that. Okie dokie then. So let's listen in here.
Hey, Megan.
Hey, Leslie. So the Biden campaign spent the weekend in damage control mode, and some of its biggest donors were reevaluating the best path forward after that debate performance last week that alarmed some supporters. The campaign says it raised $33 million from Thursday through Saturday, with about $26 million coming from grassroots donors. Officials said Thursday and Friday were their 2 best days ever for grassroots fundraising, which they say shows that the voters are still with them.
Yeah, this is a lie. I'll explain this.
3 big fundraisers this weekend, and I spoke with attendees who told me they were reassured by how the president seemed at those events. He was strong and healthy. One described the mood in the Hamptons as concerned enthusiasm. Another said people at the New York event were resolved to do more to help Biden win after Thursday, with one donor giving an extra $500,000 on the spot. A third source said the debate was a, quote, cold shower shock for Democrats, and many are now more...
what they do with this grassroots is they're like, oh, more than half of our donation... Well, first of all, they keep using donation numbers from debate day on, which is very frustrating to me because it's kind of like, I want to know what the donations were since the debate, not from debate day. So it has to be since debate night. But the second manipulation is, oh, more than half the money came from grassroots or small donors. Yeah, I mean, people donate $5 to $20 all the time, but the big dollars are coming from, like, what's the delta in the big dollars? That's what I care about. So a lot of this stuff gets manipulated. I hate it.
Is that there's a lot of frustration with the candidate that the Democrats have, but replacing him is seen as risky, and donors, for now, are standing with the party. David?
Megan, thank you. And Mike, thank you as well, of course, for joining this hour. Any parting thoughts for us?
No, we're wavering as I thought as we watch the bond market. So this is the game we're playing so far in July.
Mike Santoli. All right. You can catch him all day long, everywhere. The Supreme Court expected to announce its decision on former President Trump's claim
Oh,
of
yeah.
absolute immunity. We will have that for you in the next hour.
Okie dokie.
These bills are crazy.
Okie dokie. Does the Stocks and Site course teach options? Yes, it does. It does. It does. It very much does. So Tesla is starting to see volume declines. That's not great for that rally. I don't like seeing volume declines when I'm trying to be bullish on a position. So I think that's a bit of a red flag. See this declining volume over here? That's not great as far as how robust this might actually end up being. So I'm going to watch that. Let's see here. Okay. We'll see what happens here. So I'm also watching NVIDIA because it's trying to bounce by about 50 basis points. I also don't know how robust that's going to be. But it looks like at least... Nah, NVIDIA's volume's a mess too. So I'm watching both of these. These are my players. My players right now. Players got to play. Q's coming up. Yeah, yes. It's getting stuck a little bit. Let's see if we can make it go up. Okay, market. Go up. I will use the mouse. Here. You know what we need? Let's give Tesla some enthusiasm. Oh yeah, here we go. Here, Tesla. Let's talk nice to you.
Nice PP. Buy. Big PP. Long PP. Pricing power. Buying spree to the moon.
It's not working. Darn. Yeah, I don't like that volume decline. It is not good. It is not good. Oh, I stop it. Small profit out. Tesla. Okay. All right. Fine then. Fine, Mr. Market. Fine. Yeah. All right. Didn't work. See? As soon as volume goes down, I get nervous. It's all right. I already stopped out again. I picked up some dollars. Yeah. I just move up my stops. I mean, I picked up another $5,500 on that one. But I stopped out on that wick right there. I'm like, I don't need to sit in that. I mean, these are Friday call options, right? So they're like, or whatever, put options. They're very risky. So you can't diamond hand these things. You know, you could swing trade longer term options. Like you could go buy some like October options and you could hold those for days and it doesn't matter as much. But your boy Kevin needs more coffee. That's what we need right now. But we get the ISM numbers. So I'm actually kind of glad I'm not invested right now because the ISM numbers could be a little bit of a caddy. So let's see what happens here. ISM numbers coming in, baby, coming in. Give them to me. And prices paid coming way weaker than expected. Bullish. I like that. So that's great. And new orders coming in better than expected. Employment coming in better than expected. Manufacturing coming in a little slower than expected. But this is actually, those are bullish prices paid. So really like that. Very good, very good. Congratulations, L Market. Qs are rallying on that. That's very good. And 1 second, prices per came out low. Okay. Wow. Great. Okay, cool. Yeah, this is entertaining. Those are good numbers. Oh, this is freaking awesome. Let's go. Yeah, I had my finger over a buy on a call option right when prices paid came out. So I'm like, let's go. I love this game. I love me the stock market. I like long-term investing. I like short-term investing. I like real estate. I like it all. You know, I just like finance. That's what I tell Lauren. I'm like, you know, I really actually like my job. There are a lot of people who don't like their job. But finance, for some reason, it's just like, it speaks to me. I love it. So anyway, great. Let's see if that enthusiasm keeps going. So, oh, sweet. Yeah. Okay, it is going. That's great. Let's go. I like it, the make of the dollar. Oh, the make of the dollar. We make it the dollar. I make it the dollar. So the second those prices paid numbers came out, I had my finger on 1,000 call options for Tesla. Literally the second the data came out. And people are going to get mad at me for saying this, but I threw it in as a market order because I'm like, I don't want to sit here and play limits. I'm not going to play Mr. Limit. I'm going to sit here and enjoy my order actually getting filled. So my order got filled. Go ahead, red candle. Go ahead. Force me to take that 37,000 of profit. Take it. Oh, I love this game. It is a good day. I move my take profit up. I move my stop loss. I leave my stop profit. I leave that one. I put that there. Oh, this game is dumb. It doesn't even make sense. It's just, I get data, I go calls with good data.
And there's a lot of data to look forward to. We appreciate it. We are 30 minutes into the trading session. Here are some of the big movers we're watching. Boeing buying its troubled supplier Spirit AeroSystems in a $4.7 billion stock deal. The deal is more than $8 billion if you include debt. Executives believe the plan will improve quality and safety control as the plane maker faces mounting scrutiny for past violation. You see shares of both Boeing and Spirit up at this hour. Take a look at Chewy. Shares there had been rallying.
Sherry.
2.4% after filings showed that the meme trader Keith Gill, also known as Roaring Kitty, bought 9 million shares of the company, amounting to a 6.6% stake. And Birkenstock getting a little bit of a boost today, up about 1.5%. UBS upgrading the name to buy from neutral, saying it has, quote, new conviction in the upside. For shares of the shoe company, the stock up about 13% year to date.
It is, of course, the first trading day for the second half of the year, and all major indices trying to build on their strong gains in the first half of the year. The Nasdaq, by the way, was up almost 20%. Bob Pisani joins us now at post 9 to look at what investors should be focused on for this second half of the year. Bob, surely we can't repeat that first half.
We could theoretically, but the problem is the earnings really are very dependent on tech, and we're seeing decelerating earnings growth in tech. That's a warning sign for the fundamental people. Let me just show you what's going on here. In theory, we're in remarkably good shape on all quarters, all 3 quarters remaining for the year, up about 10% overall for the year here. So 10.6% this quarter, 8.6, 15. These numbers, these estimates have been remarkably stable within a percentage point or two for the last 3 or 4 months. So we're halfway through the year. We could easily do a 10% earnings growth this year. Here's the concerns that I have. There are 2 major concerns. The first is that in big cap tech, earnings are still growing, but the rate of growth is slowing. That's called decelerating earnings growth. That's a real red flag for fundamental investors. The other, on a separate issue, is consumer stocks are seeing a lot of pushback on prices. We've heard companies like Kimberly-Clark talk about big pushback. They're going to be lowering prices. McDonald's been talking about doing this. And, of course, what's going to happen is that's going to pressure margins to a certain extent. These 2 issues are big, but it's the decelerating earnings growth. Everybody wants to talk about NVIDIA. Let me show you what decelerating earnings growth actually looks like. And I'm picking month-over-month changes here. So a year ago was when everybody caught on to NVIDIA and started growing their estimates dramatically. Look what happened a year ago. This is quarter-over-quarter earnings growth, 145% for NVIDIA. Then next quarter, 50% earnings growth, 30%, 17.5. You see that? That is decelerating earnings growth. Earnings are still growing. That's the thing to understand, but they're just not going up as fast as before. And that's a red flag to fundamental investors that are out there talking about this and saying we need to be very careful about that. So this is important because this has happened to a lesser extent with all of the big cap tech companies. So this is why you get these lopsided returns here. Like, look at these earnings in the first half of the second quarter. 30% here. We're talking about the second quarter up 10%, but put the other one up for Goldman Sachs' numbers on the weekend. 6 largest tech stocks up 30% this year. The S&P, the 494 others only up 5% so far this year. So the earnings are very lopsided in the technology space. There you see what I'm talking about. Now, talk about the S&P 500. There's been a lot of discussion of the fact the S&P is up 14%. The equal weight S&P is only up 4%. I would contend that the anomaly here is the S&P up 14% because of technology dragging everything up. The average gain on the S&P 500 on a yearly basis, absent dividends, is about 7%. So we're seeing a very normal year in the S&P 500. It's the tech stocks, returns like this, NVIDIA, Meta, Alphabet, Amazon, that are anomalous, that are themselves unusual. So everybody's saying, well, the rest of the market isn't doing well. That's not true. The rest of the market is doing fine. It's this that is a little bit anomalous and very unusual. As for the rest of the year, guys, it's very, very tricky here to look at what's going on here. We've got rising earnings. Tech earnings are decelerating. We've seen nice job growth. We see interest rates moderating. That's a positive. Inflation moderating is a positive. And the consumer cautious, I would say, is a negative. So I call this a very complicated stew for the second half of the year. Overall, on my little front, my little world on earnings, really, really good still.
Well, on that topic.
Yeah, and that is true. Earnings are actually doing really well. And that's the thing that just like freaks people out because people are like, put the inverted yield curve. You know, like it should be bad. But it's just really good. So, it's really hard to fight. So yeah. All right. Oh, yep. Nope. There goes that. Okay. Picked up a few pennies. 1 sec. Never mind. Well, okay. Okay. So, yeah, somebody's like, oh, show the realized P&L. Sure. It's right here at the top right. So, yeah, I'm just playing in and out right now. I never guarantee we can make money every day. You know, that's not the point. My goal is to just to teach how I play things, how I do it. You know, the limits that I set, how I play the game, and if you can learn and make money, that's the whole goal, but can't guarantee it. So, but yeah, no, it's 85K is the realized right now, which is pretty good because I was playing with, you know, between 80 to 130, but I'm playing with Friday call options, so, you know, like a double sounds great, but they're obviously like high risk positions. So, but anyway, you know, then watching puts or whatever else as well. So, yeah. Tesla keeps getting kind of rejected at like 108.90. And Tesla has this like, you could probably potentially play Tesla both ways here. You know, where if the volume keeps declining, you just go for some puts. I generally don't like doing that. I generally like picking one direction. But Tesla's gone so far intraday here. I have a feeling some people are going to start shorting this. If you do, I always recommend not as personalized advice, but just broadly, like limits. Set limits. The greatest way to lose money is not following the rule of setting limits. Because then, you know, if it goes counter to your move, rather than you defaulting out, you default in because you're like, oh, it'll get better, and then it never does.
Guys getting out, and then fundamental guys saying exactly like what we're just saying there, decelerating earnings. That's the risk right now.
Bob Pisani, great stuff. Thanks so much. Let's now bring in our next guest, who does expect a correction that will take place in the S&P 500, taking it down to 4750, but acknowledges that we could be in for a full-blown mania that would unjustifiably take the S&P to 6K before the drop down. Let's bring in the chief equity strategist at Stifel, Barry Bannister. Barry, great to see you. Thanks.
Wow, Chewy went negative after this Keith Gill disclosure. It's down 4%.
Correction to what extent? 10% or so in the S&P, and how soon?
First off, it's nice to see you back. And yeah, our view actually is a correction first. The S&P through the end of the third quarter, it's many of the things that Bob Pisani outlined, and he does a great job on that. The deceleration of the earnings growth, the very high PE ratio, the stickiness of inflation, and we actually think there's a mild case of stagflation building into the third, early fourth quarter. You've got some weak economic data, and you've got sticky inflation. So it does put the Fed in a bind, and stocks are expensive versus financial conditions index, for example, particularly the cap-weighted S&P, which looks like it has about 3.5 PE multiple points on forward.
Yeah, everybody refers to this sort of the wedge between the market cap weighted and the equal weighted. Big spread.
The possibility of
basically more weight on the big Mag 6s.
only talking about a small correction. I mean, surely that takes us, with stocks prices they are, into a scenario where we should be seeing a massive pullback.
47.50 is a pretty massive pullback. It's in line with those that you saw. Was uncertainty related to the Fed in the mid-2010s, 2015, 2016 timeframe. The dollar was too strong. The industrial side, as you saw from today's Purchasing Manager Index, was weak. The inflation this time is the new wrinkle. We think it'll pop back up on the core PCE inflation to the mid-20s on a month-over-month basis in basis points. That would probably print 3% on core PCE by the end of the year. We watch all the elements of it, supercore, housing contribution, and so forth. So when we're looking at that and the likelihood that productivity, which has bounced back after the, call it a pseudo recession of 22-23, there was a recession in everything but employment, that the productivity bounce back looks like it's spent. It will roll over into the back half, and you'll have rising.
A lot of people think productivity is still going to keep going. Oh.
Be concerned about in this calendar seasonally weak period through the late summer, early fall.
Stifel also has a piece out about Bitcoin and the signals that it sees suggesting an imminent S&P 500 correction warning. What are those signals that you see, and why does it have a barometer on what the S&P does?
Yeah, that was me. The Bitcoin piece is interesting because when you look at it, it's not halving, it's not any sort of thing like that. If you look at every major up move in Bitcoin for the last dozen years since 2011, it occurred right when the Fed pivoted to dovishness. So Bernanke announcing QE3 in September of 2012, Chair Yellen pivoting in the first quarter of 16, all the Powell pivots that we've seen in his tenure, and there have been several. Every time they pivot, Bitcoin takes off. It's a cheap money, easy liquidity play, a hypercharged play on that. And every time Bitcoin peaks after those major moves up, mathematically, it leads to a weaker or flat S&P. And the S&P right now is at the very top of the trading range we expect related to Bitcoin. I think it pulls back easily 5% into the July-August timeframe. But we're looking for a little bit more on the S&P pullback.
Barry Bannister, great to see you as always. Thanks so much.
Good to see you.
A reminder, by the way, tomorrow morning, Sarah Eisen will be live from Sintra, Portugal, alongside ECB President Christine Lagarde, Fed Chair Jerome Powell, and the head of Brazil's central bank. Be sure to tune in here to Squawk on the Street for that fantastic-looking panel.
All right, as we head to a break, here's our roadmap.
Fantastic looking panel. Tell me more. I would like to watch the panel tomorrow too.
A closer look at the financials moving higher in today's trade as the big banks raise their dividends post stress tests.
And we continue to monitor the Supreme Court, expected to hand down its final opinions of the term, including former President Trump's immunity case. We'll keep our eyes on that throughout the morning. Squawk on the Street back after this short break.
Yeah, back after this short break. They always have short breaks. I wish I could have a short break so I could go get myself some coffee, but I can't. Fine then. Fine then. No coffee for you, Kevin. You have work to do. Get to work. Get to work. Oh, Tesla is falling. Oh no, Tesla go down. It is not good. It is not good. You know, I tell you, and I said it here. I said it to folks in the courses many times. Tesla does this weird midday consolidation thing all the frickin' time, and it's annoying. yeah, it sucks. But, oh well. It'll come back. So, NVIDIA's got some green candles here. NVIDIA's trying to come back. You've got Tesla's trying to come back. Yeah, look at that weird Q sell-off right there, and all of a sudden you're getting trying to get a move back here. Yeah, it looks like exactly what's going on here. Anyway, Rivian's at 5.7, Bitcoin 62.6, Snowflake 2.4, Palantir 3.4, Amazon 5.4, Faraday 6.55. All right. What else is going on, folks? I need to know. Think about getting a coffee IV? Hell yeah. just put the caffeine right where it belongs. Right in the venous. Isn't that what it's called? Intravenous? It just doesn't sound appropriate. Yes, please put that in my Venus. Oh no. Yeah, a lot of people complaining about Robinhood. I just basically exclusively trade on Webull. If you want my link, it's metkevin.com/Webull. It's a paid promotion. It's an affiliate. It's a sponsor. But anyway, they're great. I love them. So yeah, metkevin.com/Webull. I think if you use that, they give you like up to $3,000 of free stocks. I don't know. It's probably like $5 or $10 or $20 or $50. I don't know what it is, but they say up to $3,000 of free stocks. Check it out by going to metkevin.com/Webull, Webull, and then hopefully you don't have as many issues anymore. So you're somewhat consolidating right now on Tesla, NVIDIA. That gets a little harder to trade, so I'm probably just going to back away. Look at that bounce on the 224 line there on coin. Rivian is making a nice move over here. And the Q's here up 30 basis points, not bad. So Apple still trying to get to 115, just can't make it there right now. It's very interesting. Oh, what do we got over here?
Of course, Trump has a self-interest in the outcome today, short of the Supreme Court ruling entirely against Trump or for or against absolute presidential immunity. Today's decision is expected to further delay the January 6th case, which has been frozen since December with no trial start date. It now appears very unlikely any of Trump's 3 remaining criminal trials will begin before Election Day. The expectation is that this court today, the Supreme Court, will rule on presidential immunity in a more nuanced way that'll send it back to the Obama-appointed Judge Tanya Chutkan, who will determine which of the 4 felony counts that Trump faces in that January 6th case could be impacted by the ultimate SCOTUS opinion today. So a decision that could ultimately be bogged down by more appeals from the Trump team. But in the interim, the Trump campaign continues over the weekend to hammer President Biden on his debate performance and to really focus in on Thursday night. Listen.
This is like a Rocky knockout. I mean, they should build a statue to Donald Trump at Georgia Tech because everyone's talking about should Joe Biden even stay in the race. That's never happened in our history.
He obviously won that hands down.
You've also never had that horrible of a performance in the debate where you're like, oh my gosh, our president is senile.
Performance in debate history.
And as we await that opinion from the Supreme Court at any moment, it's important to remind folks about the timeline here. Judge Chutkan says that she wanted to give the prosecution and Trump's defense lawyers several months to prepare for this trial, depending on what comes from this decision. And then the prosecution, Jack Smith, has said that he'll need about 4 to 6 weeks to prosecute this case. So even if we'll see whether or not, a lot of questions as to whether or not they'll have even enough time to start and finish this trial by November 5th. Ashley.
Exactly right. Brian, thank you very much for that. The chair of the House Oversight Committee, Kentucky Congressman James Comer, joins me now. Chairman, great to have you here. I mean, you know, we have no idea how this is going to play out as we wait, but how do you see it playing out?
Well, I have no idea how the Supreme Court will rule, but I'll tell you my personal opinion. I believe that people should be held accountable for wrongdoing, whether they're president or not. However, the problem is the Democrats have abused every facet of our system of checks and balances. If the Supreme...
All right, too political. Too political.
but they're not infused with AI yet, and they're not having a demonstrable difference for the users. And so in the interim, these horizontal apps get put on the back burner. Data initiatives like what's happening with Snowflake, when you look at what's happening with Microsoft Azure, Amazon, AWS, those are front burner. Data estates are seeing incredible budget surges because every company's trying to get their data ready for AI. So you're not going to...
Yeah, remember Palantir talks about only about 10 to 15% of data actually being AI ready or possible to like AI enable, so to speak. It's kind of small little portion.
Trying to get the back burner, but it'll rotate back to those apps over a period of time.
Brent, it's great to see you. My question, stepping back a bit, is just whether you ever worry that some of these companies, 3 trillion plus, even 1 trillion plus, are getting too big. I guess putting it a different way is it's kind of remarkable that we haven't seen any big management strategic errors when you're trying to oversee such enormous, sprawling companies.
I mean, at this point, we're at the beginning of the AI journey, so I think it's there are going to be some casualties. Now, right now, I think you've seen the big get bigger. As we've say in AI, you need capital, users, and the data, and those are benefiting companies like Google, Meta, Amazon, and Microsoft. So in the interim, I think you're going to see some companies that don't catch this wave. I think it's really easy to pick the winners right now. I think it's harder for us to pick the losers at this point. But it's pretty clear who's going to win, and we have 3 ingredients: capital, users, and data, and that goes back to the big 3. So, Wilford, to your question, I think you go back to those are the stories that are going to disproportionately benefit. We've been pretty clear. We don't think there's a lot of great companies that are going to benefit. There's only a few. And if you look back at the internet cycle, right, it was Google that came out of it. If you look at all these different cycles, Salesforce in the front office, in the back office, Oracle, obviously, and SAP dominated early. You look at past cycles, and I think it's a predictor for future cycles that there really aren't going to be that many winners. There's going to be a handful of really big winners, and that's why you're seeing the market give the market caps to NVIDIA, to Microsoft, to the rest of big tech, because I think we've all seen this movie before, and I think in AI, it's going to matter in size and scope and dollars that you can spend.
All right, Brent, it's David. But to the extent then that enterprise software has not obviously kept up, and given the points you're making, are there going to be a lot of losers there as well? And when are we going to be able to tell?
We're going to tell into next year. So we've said this year it's all marketing. Effectively, these products will come to market in a bigger form in the back half of this year into 2025. So it'll be very clear who has AI products and who does not. And right now, Microsoft is standing out as one of the best positioned stories. If you look at other companies like Adobe.
They just print money. That's the thing I like. I love to hate about Microsoft. They just print so much money.
Building on top of all the core data.
High margins, some of the best margins ever. It's mostly software Microsoft versus like Apple, right?
They're doing extremely well. But that will become clear later this year into 2025. I think it's easier for us to say who's got better products right now. There's clearly companies that are lagging. And then there's different beneficiaries. Like Oracle's benefiting from infrastructure. They're not benefiting really from the software today. Right. Most of the AI companies bring their software to Oracle, so they're renting out their infrastructure and they're benefiting from that side. So, the jury's still out. Can they pivot and create a software platform? Right now, they're providing the enabling infrastructure. IBM, right? The jury's out there. They already had a tough go with Watson. Now they've got Watson X. And you heard what McDonald's said. We're stopping our deployment in the short term. That may not be IBM's.
Yeah, well, because that was their trash old AI stuff. They got to get the new AI stuff, not that old crap. Sorry, IBM.
Winners and ultimate kind of companies being disrupted by this technology. Thank you, Brent. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
We're going to take a quick break here on Squawk Street as we continue, of course, to watch for developments from the Supreme Court. We'll keep an eye on that throughout the morning. And a reminder tomorrow on this program, be sure to tune in to Sarah Eisen.
They said 7 a.m. It's 7:25 and we still don't have it.
Generative AI.
What a scam.
Portugal for you tomorrow. We'll be right back.
All right, whatever.
to the moon.
Yes. Be nice to Watson. Watson needs an NVIDIA GPU. Anyway, so speaking of NVIDIA's trying to claw back. You've got Robin Hood's trying to come back, bouncing on coin. Qs are coming up. Apple's trying to go up. Bitcoin can't figure out which way it wants to go, so it's in no man's land. Snowflake, what a run on Snowflake. Palantir's only up about 50 basis points. Nice move on Snowflake. Yang, what's falling? Faraday Futures, GameStop, Greenwave Tech, Chewy. All roaring kitties. Hundreds of millions of dollars are now worth slightly less. That's all right. All right. What else? What else do we have? I think that is it. I am going to push the button. Remember to go to meetkevin.com to get the courses on building your wealth. All the course member live streams, all the good stuff. All right, here you go. Even though I'm a licensed financial advisor, real estate broker, and becoming a stockbroker, this video is neither personalized financial advice nor real estate advice for you. It is not tax, legal, or otherwise personalized advice tailored to you. This video provides generalized perspective, information, and commentary. Any third-party content I show should not be deemed endorsed by me. This video is not and shall never be deemed reasonably sufficient information for the purpose of evaluating a security or investment decision. Any links or promoted products are either paid affiliations or products or services which we may benefit from. I personally operate an actively managed ETF and hold long positions in various securities, potentially including those mentioned in this video. However, I have no relationship to any issuers other than HouseHack, nor am I presently acting as a market maker. Yeah, all right, y'all. We'll see y'all in the next one. Still having issues with Robinhood? Make sure you join the real hood over at Webull. Go to metkevin.com/Webull to learn more. Thanks so much, folks. Goodbye. Oh, that's a paid promotion. Thanks. Bye.